Hey everybody, today I'm talking about Bonfire, which at the time of this recording is the latest game by my favourite designer, or one of my favourite designers, Stefan Feld. The game accommodates 1 to 4 players and plays in about 90 minutes. The idea of the game is pretty out there, it's pretty wacky and wild. I think we're supposed to be these gnomes trying to entice these spirits to come back and light these bonfires. I don't know, it's pretty out there and it doesn't make much sense, but this is probably one of my most anticipated games of the year because not only Feld being one of my favourite designers, this one is kind of a step heavier than some of the more recent stuff that Feld's been bringing out. Games like The Castles of Tuscany, Carpe Diem, etc. They're kind of on the lighter end of the scale, where this one is a bit more of a throwback to some of his earlier titles, which are a bit more complex and have a bit more going on. So I'll try and explain how the game plays, and some of the kind of ideas thematically might not make sense because the game is pretty choppy. A lot of it doesn't really fit together in a thematic fashion, which is probably why the game has this such an out there theme. But basically, you are trying to get as many points as you can throughout the game by doing lots of different things, such as completing quests and therefore lighting these bonfires. You're trying to create paths, trying to create portals from those paths into the bonfires, trying to lead spirits back down these paths, and so on. So there's lots of things you can do. But ultimately it's going to be a bit of a point fest, a bit of a point salad kind of game. There's also some kind of common objectives out there as well, which everybody can kind of fight towards. So there's kind of 2 kind of sections of the game. You've got your own kind of unique player boards, which are quite interesting. There's quite a lot going on in them, and it's kind of your user interface on how the game is going to play out. And also you've also got the main board, which all the players are using, which has a bunch of islands on them. It also has this really cool great bonfire where you can kind of take loads of resources and stuff. And it also has this council as well, where you complete your missions, you're going to send some of your little gnomes off to get little rewards and stuff. And it's also going to trigger the end of the game, depending on the player count. Basically, the more players there are, the more missions you're going to need to complete amongst all the players to trigger the end of the game. The main board is also going to hold some of the cards that you can accumulate throughout the game, which gives you kind of bonus powers or kind of instant scoring methods as well. So mechanically, the game boils down into 3 kind of encompassing actions. The main one action is to take one of your fate tiles, which are kind of these kind of 3, kind of a row of 3 actions basically. And you're going to put them on your player board on this kind of grid and get the corresponding action tokens, which you're going to use to take your actions throughout the game. This grid is quite an interesting part of the game because as the game goes on, you're going to get more of these fate tokens, and as you line up these actions kind of orthogonally, you can get more and more actions as you go on. So it's got this real kind of puzzly aspect to it where you kind of focus your strategy on a certain thing, you can get more of those tokens. You also get rewarded for covering certain areas on that board or certain squares by getting gold or wild action tokens. So and gold is kind of like a wild resource in the game. So, before you even start, you've kind of got this external puzzle that you need to work out in order to do what you want to do, which is always great because games like Trajan bring me that kind of feeling where, you have to navigate your own user interface before you even get going in the game. And that's just, that extra layer of complexity really intrigues me. I think it's easier to explain the other simple action, which is to basically complete one of your bonfires. And when you have a certain mission criteria completed, you can flip it over and send one of your gnomes off to the High Council, which can give you instant rewards or points and so on. And finally, you've got your kind of main action-taking action where you're going to cash in your different tokens to take the corresponding action. And those actions can be either travelling around the map from island to island, travelling down the different water paths. If you use one action, you can go down one path. You use 2, you can go down 2 paths. And if you use 3, you can go anywhere. And the reason you want to go anywhere or to these different islands is because that's where you are going to pick up your new missions, which are going to basically give you the bulk of your points at the end of the game. The missions come in 3 different kind of difficulties. You've got your basic blue ones, you've got the kind of mediocre red ones, and you've got the more complex or more difficult to achieve yellow ones. And obviously the points are going to correspond to that as well. So the yellow missions are going to give you more points than the blue ones, but obviously going to be more difficult to actually to complete. And those missions could be things such as having a certain type of spirit on your board, or having a certain amount of cards, or a certain amount of type of missions. Also maybe having taking some actions from the same islands and stuff. So you've got all those different criteria you've got to try and complete to get these missions done. Additionally, when you sail, you can kind of piggyback off that action to take one of the other actions, which is picking up these spirits and putting them on your board. And that's kind of another, ties into another action you can take. Also taking the missions as well, because when you take a mission, you need to actually cash in a token. And if you have already taken a mission from that island, you have to cash in more tokens. So, just focusing on one area is going to be, it might be quite a bit more expensive in terms of taking your action tokens up. Additionally, from taking these or cashing in those action tokens, you also have to cash in resources. And those resources, I think there's 6 different kinds, one of those being wild. Whenever you take a mission, you need to cash in a certain type of resource corresponding to that island, and also one corresponding to your player board, which kind of rotates as the game goes on. So as you can tell, there's a lot of interlocking systems here, all of which need to be weighed up. Some of the actions are a bit more simple, such as taking a path tile. When you take this path tile, you just add them onto your player board, which creates a path where the spirits can walk down, and can kind of give you more points if if you focus on doing so. You can also focus on taking these portals as well. These portals give you, I think they give you 2 points each at the end of the game, but they also give you the ability to move your spirits through the path into where the bonfires are, to get you more end game points, which can be quite a significant way of getting points. But it's quite difficult to achieve because moving the spirits down the paths costs you quite a few actions, especially if you want to get right to the end. And additionally, they can't kind of share paths, so you have to kind of move one at a time, and so on. So there is a bit to weigh up there as well. Additionally, some of the portals only fit certain spots on your player board, so having a particular type of portal is important. And that relates to the another action you can take, which is the bonfire action, or the great bonfire action, where you've got this kind of a wheel of resources, and you are moving around trying to. You can pick up different resources. You can pick up different these portals, and you can also pick up I think little bonuses such as action tokens, for example. So yeah, there's a lot going on. The mitigation is quite good, because normally with a bonfire, you can, if you cash in 1 token, you can move 1 space. If you cash in 2 tokens, you can move up to 2 spaces in a clockwise fashion. But if you cash in 3 tokens, you can move it anywhere. And the same goes for the boat and stuff. So you've got a bit of flexibility there. And I think the final action you can take is to take these gnome cards. And you've got I think it's like expert cards, and you've got elder cards as well. And the elder cards are quite simple. They're going to be the same every game. And they are going to give you points based on certain criteria you have. So you might say take a point for every path tile you have, or take a point for every token you have. And the thing about this is, it might seem pretty basic, but because there's only one available of each type, it's kind of a push your luck chicken kind of mechanism. Because if someone takes that tile, you completely can't take it, or that card, you can't take it anymore. So you need to make sure that you're doing it before everybody else does, but you don't want to push it too far to get loads of points, because someone will snatch it before you. So kind of running away with a certain type of strategy is a good way to get the most out of these elder cards, by catching your opponent off guard. The expertise cards are a bit more interesting, because they give you loads of really cool powers you can do, which kind of trump a lot of the base game rules, such as when you travel, you can travel 1 faster, or you can move the bonfire an additional space. You don't have to move one of your spirits at a time. They can share paths, for example. So there's loads of kind of game-breaking powers, which are quite interesting, to be fair. And especially if you get them early in the game, you can kind of tailor your strategy to piggyback off the expertise cards you've picked up. To take one of those cards, not only do you have to cash in the card tokens, but you also have to cash in a number of resources corresponding to that card as well. So resources are a bit of a thing to worry about in terms of getting not only getting the missions you want, but also getting the cards you want as well. And that pretty much determines the main actions you're going to take. And and so on. And as I said, once you've got a certain amount of missions completed, you are going to trigger the end of the game, which does kind of a 5-round countdown. And at any point in one of those rounds, you can kind of forfeit the rest of your goes and take that many points, equal to the amount of rounds left you have. Also, at the end of the game, you're going to get points corresponding to the type of bonfire you've lit, depending on how easy it is, that red, blue or yellow mission. If that corresponds to the type of path you've laid, then you are going to get an additional 2 points, I believe. So yeah, there's a lot of things to weigh up, a lot of things to think about. Having that flow of resources, the flow of missions, or action tiles you need to take. You're somewhat limited to the actions you can take because of the puzzle. And any time you can get rid of action tiles in order to take a new fate tile, because you can only ever place a new fate tile when you've got one action left, and that can kind of give you a whole new injection of actions to take. So yeah, as you can probably tell, it's a game you kind of have to play for yourself to experience, but it is meaty. It has that proper Feld feel to it. The interlocking systems and a wide array of strategies to go down. So yeah, in terms of meaningful decisions, there is a boatload in this one, while still not being overly paralysing because you are limited to the tokens you have at any time. And if you want to kind of be a bit more free with that, you're going to basically throw away a lot of your tokens and keep putting new fate tiles down, which isn't going to be very efficient, to be honest. So yeah, meaningful decision-wise, this game is a feast for the senses. Loads to do, loads to explore, and everything matters, which is great. The balance of the game as well seems really good. I mean, mostly you're going to get a lot of your points from the bonfires you're lighting by completing those missions. However, it's not an insignificant amount to focus on getting those, getting those portals down, getting the spirits onto those bonfires, which is quite a good amount of points to be had, and so on. So there is a lot of different things you can focus on, but mainly bearing in mind getting those missions done. So I do really like that. Mechanically, I think once you've got your head around the kind of 3 encompassing actions, it's pretty simple. All the actions themselves are pretty intuitive, and also they're pretty snappy as well. I mean, there's no really long, laborious actions to take. They're all pretty snappy, and there's not kind of a lot of waiting for your opponent, or your opponent's waiting for you to do all the housekeeping and stuff in order to complete your actions. So while there's still loads going on, I think it's still pretty, it ticks along quickly, and the AP in the game isn't actually too bad, considering. Time investment, I think the game is just about right. I mean, the turns do whip by quite quickly, and obviously because the end game criteria is triggered by how many people have been sent to the High Council, then some games could be longer than others, because if one game everybody's focused on those more difficult yellow missions, then it's going to be a bit longer. But if someone's kind of blitzing through those cheaper blue missions, then it's going to be a bit quicker. Replayability is really good because there is a ton of these mission tiles that go in with this game. All those different complexities. So yeah, every game is going to be quite different in that respect. Additionally, all the different action cards, there's a lot to explore and a lot of different things to try out. Interaction-wise, I think is actually pretty good for a Euro. There is some quite good interaction, not only because everybody's kind of sailing around trying to get the missions they want, and there's only a limited amount of them. And you want to be there to get the ones first, but also there's competition over getting the cards that you want, the Elder cards and the Expertise cards. But also there's some common objectives on the board as well. And those common objectives are things you're kind of naturally going to complete as the game goes on, such as having all your spirits on your board, having all 6 action cards down or cards down, and basically the first person to trigger one of those or to complete one of those is going to have a neutral gnome that they can put into the High Council. And that's really important because normally you can only have one of certain type of colour on each of those kind of council seats to get a certain benefit. But if you get the neutral ones, you can take that benefit again, which can be very powerful, such as moving your spirit all the way along the path to the end, which would normally be quite a burden to do so, or sailing anywhere on the map, or taking gold, which is your wild resources and stuff. So yeah, it's very important to focus on those neutral objectives as well as your own ones. So yeah, interaction-wise, very good. Aesthetically as well, I think I actually really like the way the game looks. It's, as I said, the theme is way out there. It doesn't make much sense. It's very, it's just to fit the kind of the square peg in a square hole, really. But the theme works, and the way the game looks works as well. I really do like it. It has a really cool color palette, really kind of interesting, to be honest. It looks different. It looks, like it is fantasy, but it's a different kind of like fairy tale style fantasy, and the gnomes and stuff are weird. The artwork's good. I mean, I do really like this artist, actually. I think, is it Lauhausen? I forget his name, but I think he did the artwork for Oracle of Delphi as well, and which I really like. It's got a kind of a cool Euro style feel to it, but still being attractive and classy as well. So I really do like the way the game looks, and I just like the general feel of it. And as I said, despite the wild theme, it actually works quite well if you get your head around it. And setup and teardown time as well. There's a bit of fiddliness to the setup. Putting all the portals out, putting all the missions out and stuff, and also setting up your player board as well. But not too bad. I mean, the game more than compensates for the setup. Progression-wise as well, I really do like the way the game ramps up, because not only do the missions get tighter and tighter, you're trying to line up a lot of things on your player board. With the not only the bonfires you're lighting, but with the paths as well. You're trying to get all the portals in. You're trying to move up your spirits, and all these things are you can't do them all. Having everything done is quite unachievable in this game, and you need that tension to be a really good Euro, in my opinion. And this game does that well. And don't get me wrong, you can get a lot done in this game, but you need to play well to do so. And also rely on other people playing at the same pace as you, because the end game criteria is quite different, and it throws a bit of a spanner in the works in terms of the pacing of the game. Scalability as well, really good. I mean, the fewer the players, the fewer the missions go on the board, so there's still going to be that tension there. And also, as I said, the end game trigger is based on fewer gnomes being sent to the council, so it's very proportionate depending on the player count. And comparison-wise, I mean, while this game does feel like a classic Feldian game, it still feels extremely fresh, extremely new and interesting, but it still has those Feld tropes. As I said, the Feld, the Trajan-like, player board. Instead of using Mancala, you've got this kind of really interesting, like almost like a tile placement kind of game. You've got all the different things you've got to think about. It feels very Feldian, but it feels like a new, interesting Feldian that isn't retiring or regurgitating old ideas, but it still has that Feld feel. So I really do like that. But yeah, as you can tell, overall, I really, really love this game. I think it is fantastic. It is more than lived up to my hype of the game. I was excited for it because, I want those heavier Feld games and not the kind of entry-level ones. And this one is right up there with the best of them for me. I love everything about it. I think it is just great, and I would happily play this again and again and again and again. And it is more than definitely going in my collection for the long haul. To be honest, I think this is probably the best Feld game I've played since the Oracle of Delphi, which is quite a few years old now. So the best Feld release since then, and I think that's high praise, because I like all Feld games, but I happen to like some more than others, and this one is right up there for me. So yeah, really happy that he's still bringing out fantastic games, and it's got me excited for more ideas he's got, because the man is a genius. He makes great games that are just perfect for me. This is a great one. If you like all those classic Feld games, you like your Trajans and your Burgundies and your Delphis and stuff like that, you're going to like this one. It is fantastic. Give it a go. I think it's a game you probably have to play for yourself to understand quite how it all fits together, because I said it is quite an obtuse game. It's quite nebulous in terms of how it works, but it works very well, and it is a lot of fun, interesting, and just great. So that concludes my review of Bonfire. This gets my elite shield, so this is the top or the highest acclaim I can give to a game, and more than well deserved, because I love it. So and I'd also be very surprised if this game doesn't end up in my top 3 of the year in terms of 2020 releases. Maybe even a number 1, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. And also, there's still some quite good games to come out, or big anticipated releases to come out. But yeah, that concludes my review of Bonfire. If you have enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. Check out my other videos too. You can also follow me on Instagram and back me on Patreon. I'll leave the links below for those. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.